सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तपोभिक्षेण पापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। पेज 52, 18th श्लोक। देहेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धि प्रकृतिभ्यो विलक्षणम् तद्वृत्तिसाक्षिणं विद्यात् आत्मानं राजवत्सदा। Yesterday we saw, though the Atma Chaitanya sarvagataha sarvatra avabhasate, but yet it is only in the buddhi that it can clearly reflect. We can see our reflection in a metallic surface, but it is not that clear. We can see our reflection in a still water surface. That is also not that very clear. But in a mirror, the reflection is very, very clear. And if it is not a concave or a convex mirror, it's a plain mirror, then the reflection is as is. Even if there is a little bit of contour to it, then it starts appearing distorted. But if it is a clear plain mirror, the reflection is very, very clear, as is. Similarly, all other aspects of this kshetra does reflect that Atma Chaitanya, but not as absolutely clear as it is in the buddhi. Buddhau eva avabhaseta. It reflects clearly only in that buddhi. Now, as it reflects in that buddhi, the transference of this attribute which has been reflecting in the buddhi happens through all other subsequent layers, one by one, one by one. From the buddhi to the mana, mana to the prana, prana to the sharira. Sharira meaning the organs of perception and action. In fact, all of these three are the karana, bahikarana and the antakarana. Bahikarana has two classifications. One is called the Jnanendriya and the other is called the Karmendriya. So the transference is from the subtlest, which is the buddhi, all the way down to through the organs of perception action to the outside world even. This step-by-step process, if it is understood, then the works like Dṛśya Viveka, or directly from the Upanishads like Kenopanishad, we can clearly experience, and that becomes a very powerful pathway for our nididhyasana. Nididhyasana, meditative process. Now moving forward, in the next shloka he says, Deha indriya mana buddhi prakriti vilakṣaṇam. There is something other than vilakṣaṇam, distinctly different from. Lakṣana is the nature or the attribute. Vilakṣana, something completely different. एकदम हटके. From what? Deha, Indriya, Mana, Buddhi, Prakriti. Now here the word Prakriti has to be correctly understood. We are here talking about the Panchakosha Viveka. Therefore here Prakriti should mean the avidya or the Mula Prakriti. Therefore the Anandamaya Kosha is indicated. Otherwise, where is the fifth one? The fifth one being Anandamaya Kosha. So Prakriti is synonymously used with Anandamaya indicated. Deha asti jayate vardhate viparnimate apakshiyate vinashyati iti dehaha. Where does this come? Atmabodha. The earlier text is referred here just so that we conveniently understand that deha has its lakshana. Asti jayate, asti conceived, jayate born, vardhate rapidly grows. You who are raising the kid may not see the rapid transformation happening, not growth happening. But then anybody who has not seen the kid for a week, say, "Arey, बड़ा हो गया." And we usually don't want to focus on the child's growth. So we divert the attention and say, "Kapde chote ho gaye." The clothes have become small. How can the clothes? Yes, the new cloth you bring and you wash it once, it may shrink a little bit. Once you start wearing, you cannot say that the clothes have become small. What they mean to say is, the child has become big. Growth. Vardhate. Viparinamate. Parinamate. Parinama. Transform. Viparinamate. Rapidly transforms. A boy becomes a man. A girl becomes a woman. And the moment they hit the age of puberty, then there is a whole change. Because the chemistry department opens up then. The internal chemicals, the chemistry department opens rapidly. Viparinamate. And after that transformation, then it is downhill. Asti jayate vardhate viparinamate. Why is it downhill? One by one, all the capacities starts becoming kshina, lopa. Probably the first thing that hits is the nose bridge finally gets its job. Glasses come on the top of it. I think I was in Minneapolis, and I was, putting the book far close. I was fluctuating with it from the dais when I was speaking. Then this Amma came. I knew she was a doctor, but I didn't know what specialty. She said, Swamiji, we have opened a new office. We want you to come. So I went. And little did I realize that in that new office, I was being turned as the first patient. So as soon as I went in, I was completely taken aback. The nurse came, your name, your all the details. And when it came to age, that Amma did not even turn back. She didn't even refer or ask. Definitely over 40. Then she started explaining, the moment you hit 40 or 40 plus, the eyes start developing the, the chatvara, the English word, bifocal. This is too technical for me. Presbytopia. Hyperpresbytopia. Hypermetropia. Okay. Now I'll try to remember the medical term. When taking these examples, I have to be careful when speaking to doctors. You are messing with our field. You better be clear what terms you are using. Okay. Hypermetropia. Okay. And then you will have the progressive lens. Earlier I thought people were for a fashion wearing glasses, because when they have to actually read, they take it off and start reading. It's only after I hit 40 then I understood, this is a thing. Rapidly changes one by one as the age proceeds. Hearing, seeing, hearing, then the metabolism, everything starts deteriorating one after the other. Apakshiyate. Kshaya is to reduce. Apakshaya is reduced from all possible angles. It's like the historic monument. How do you know it is a historic monument? From every possible angle there is a support system. There is an edifice to support the existing. Knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder replacement, pacemaker, LASIK, hearing instrument, dentures, stent. We become the stent master. Once I was at somebody's house. I used to call them as the SQC. I guess after a certain age, when the kids have also gone, they have also married and settled and have their kids, they don't need you anymore. Then you end up becoming SQC. Sweet quarreling couple. I asked her, why so much of time pass hona chahiye na Swamiji. So early in the morning, I had already woken up, showered and ready. They had woken up at their leisurely time. And not that I was intending to hear, it was clear and loud over the wall. I could hear them speak. Probably the husband was still lazing around on the bed, and he said, "Honey, can you brush mine also?" So I had to imagine, probably both had dentures and she was brushing hers. She said, "Can you brush mine also?" She said, "No, yesterday also I did, today is your turn." Everything changes. Apakshiyate. And then finally, vinashyati. Every organ that could fail will fail. That is how the body is made. That is its lakṣaṇam. Constant fluctuating thoughts is the mind. Sankalpa vikalpātmakaha manaha. Buddhi also, the ideas keep changing. You ask a kid, what do you want to become? Whoever or whatever has impressed that little young mind, that is what they want to become. Usually in the Balavihar back in Dallas, if I ask the first, second grade children, invariably they all want to become trash dump vehicle driver. Every day that trash collecting comes, probably because that van has got so many moving limbs, parts that it lifts, picks, throws, and then precisely puts it back. There's a lot of action happening. And for that young mind, it's like, wow, hona to aisa chahiye. And then when they come and announce it to the parents, who want the child already to be a doctor, an engineer, a software, at least a hardware. Other than this, you end up being nowhere. And hearing that they want to become a trash collection van driver, their heart sinks. Many first parents come and say, "Swamiji, kuch to gadbad hai mere bete mein. Something is wrong with my child." And nothing is wrong. Wait for another year, they will come and they will announce it. This will continue until they come to college, and even in college that keeps changing. They go in to do the basics of biology, seeing that there is so much too voluminous to constantly memorize. Not my cup of tea. And suddenly change completely, a U-turn. I said humanities. Ideas keep changing. Arre vaah. So he is on Google Matalli, which is on the volume. Now the secret is revealed. Okay. Buddhi also changes. Anandamaya. They said ignorance is bliss. If it is really that blissful, why don't we continue? Wish we continued, but the first thing to disturb is nature. Nature calls pretty strong. It gets disturbed. One thing that is common through and through, everything consistently changes. And in Gurudev's words, change is the changeless law of this nature. Constantly changes. Tad vilakṣaṇam, that which is something distinctly separate from that. Meaning what? First thing that we have to evaluate is it has to be changeless. In the name of change, we again take to something which is constantly changing. What is the use? So it says, tadvṛttisākṣiṇaṃ vidyādātmānaṃ. A very beautifully technical word is this vritti. Deha is also perceived in the terms of vritti. Prana is also evaluated in the terms of vritti. Vritti meaning thought recognition. All these modifications and changes that keep happening is the vritti. And there is something unchanging which is śaśī, the witnessing conscious principle. Even in this śaśī there are two stages, and that clarity comes in the earlier work of Vidyāranya Swami in the Vedanta Panchadashi. He says there is one śaśī which is at the level of the subtlest thought, which is at buddhi. The buddhi is the observer. Even if we reach to that state, a huge progress made. In other words, we also call it as swadhyaya. Swadhyaya, not the study of the scriptures. Swadhyaya from the meaning that swasya adhyayanam, constantly observing throughout my functioning, wherever there are interactions and transactions, constantly being observant, being vigilant. That is happening at the state of buddhi. Even to that subtlest of the buddhi, there are times when I know I have grasped things. There are times when I know I am not able to grasp certain things. Like say playing cards. Many people have tried teaching me the trick to be smart at that game. पल्ले पड़ता ही नहीं है, घुसता ही नहीं है. I know, I am aware that I cannot grasp. That thought when it is occurring, something is illumining the fact that I am not able to grasp. Similarly, there is something which is illumining the fact that I am able to grasp. Both the bhava and the abhava is illumined by something, and that is being referred to here as śaśī. tadvṛttisākṣiṇaṃ vidyāt. Understand this śaśī of all these vrittis, modifications, as the Atma. And how is it? The example given. The beauty of Atmabodha is almost every concept taken with its variant subtlety, there is a apt example given. And here in this apt example, he is saying like the king. Now the king sits down and they have sometimes sessions where there is singing, dancing, drama. It happens in the presence of the king. The king is absolutely not engaged or involved unless the king is a megalomaniac. ठाट से बैठ के observes. And then the whole event happens. In today's parlance, say on the January 26th and August 15th, the president stands and takes a salute from the entire procession of the armed forces. My heart goes for them. Because usually the presidents are at a very aged capacity. The one that I last saw was Shankar Dayal Sharma. He was so old, he had almost developed that bow legs, and you could see those legs shivering as he was standing. But he has to stand. And every time there is a troop that passes by, the old hand has to lift and receive the salute and respond to it. कितने देर? 3-4 hours straight. So when the Raja is sitting and all the movement is happening, it is happening as though for the entertainment of the Raja, where the Raja is not engaged, other than that it is happening in his presence. Rājavatsadā. Continuing. It is a little tongue twister, so pay attention. vyāpṛteṣvindriyeṣvātmā. Very good. vyāpārīvāvivekinām. dṛśyate'bhreṣu dhāvatsu. dhāvanniva yathā śaśī. vyāpṛteṣu indriyeṣu ātmā vyāpārīva avivekinām. Avivekinām, those who are not applying viveka. It is not that viveka is not available. We don't choose to apply it. We cannot claim, sorry Swamiji, manufacturing defect, and there is no recall. I cannot apply viveka. There is no viveka. Default setting is messed up. And it cannot be reset. There is no viveka available. There is none even in the Pashu Loka. I was waiting for the car to arrive to go somewhere, and it was a little colder season, and the dog, which was lying elsewhere, must have felt the cold shiver, gets up, does its movement, and then looks, scans around. And in that portico there was a little spot. It didn't want to go too far. It has to be its own comfort zone, just like our minds. It has to be that comfort zone. And within that comfort zone, there was a patch where there was sun hitting straight. So it pulls its whatever that cushion, whatever you call it, it pulls that to that shining surface where the sun is hitting and sits down to bask in the warmth. Isn't that viveka? It made a choice of application to make use of that which is in its comfort zone. If it had gone into the lawn area, it was all lit. sun was directly hitting it. But I guess it didn't want to leave that comfort zone. So it pulled its comfort into that little patch where the sun was hitting and nicely lies down. And if you observe, there is that sense of joy even in those faces of the dog. वाह, मजा आ गया, तृप्ति मिल गई. So viveka is there. It's a choice of application. But when we refuse to apply, such ones called the aviveki, what do? Indriyeshu, the indriyas are out there in all kinds of vyāpāra. Vyāpāra, transactional field of experience. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says that guna guneshu vartante iti matvana sajjate. That who realizes that this transaction is happening between the gunas of these dṛśyate'bhreṣu and the gunas of the outside world, I am just the witnessing conscious principle. The one who realizes this is immediately transcending the impact of the gunas. But then, this vyāpāra of the indriyas, we superimpose it on the self, Atma, and then we assume the identity. I am the vyāpāri. I am the key transactional principle. When I say, what are you doing right now? Supposed to be listening, Shravanam, and also seeing, and also sitting, the various kriyas that are happening. But they are not just kriya, they become karma. Because though we have not specifically specified that I am hearing, I am seeing, I am smelling, I am sensing a comfort, cool touch. Yesterday the fans were not organized in this. There was one which cannot be reduced. Either it is on or off, but the speed is constantly mind-boggling, and it makes a lot of rattling sound. It observes everything. But behind all of these transactions, there is that I am disturbed. I am paying attention. I am. But when we ask, what are you doing? Listening? Listening implies, normally, I am listening. Āpādita lakṣaṇam. Listening is happening. But then this little fellow has to identify with it and claim that it is the stakeholder. The stakeholder first came, it seems, when a lot of Europeans came as settlers in US, and when there is a city that has to be established, to those Europeans that have come settled in America, they would say there is this particular day, whatever you employ, from this time to this time, you have to cover a certain area. How much ever you have covered in that particular time, that much piece of land is yours. And how do you identify? Each one of them is given a wooden board, several pieces with a sharp edge, and there is a little color tag that is given. and they stake it out. They start punching it onto the floor. It has to be some, every 5 meters or something, you have to stake it. That is how the land was grabbed. The forefathers of that nation. That is where the word comes, stakeholder. Of this entire stake, which is now my estate, I am the holder. This ego also does a similar kind of a thing. Hath vajra or dhvaja viraje. Our dhvaja is the stake. And then we hoist our flag. This is now declared as mine. And then we start running to find a proof of evidence that it is mine. Vyāpārīvāvivekinām, we make that Shuddha Parishuddha Atma, Shanta Atma, as the agitated Atma. And then we say, Ayyo, I don't know why it is happening. Therefore, when anybody went to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, his only, whether stomachache, headache, agitations, you say, for all this, there is only one solution. Find out who exactly is agitated. You are not the one agitated. You are identified with that which is agitating, therefore you are behaving as though you are agitated. The bus that you are traveling in has a movement, but because of the transitive effect, I feel as though the movement is owned by me. I remember when we were young and my father used to take us to vacation. So we would go in that, there was a scheme, LTC, travel allowance. So we would book the tickets in the train, and we were kids, naughty at that. So we would not be sitting quiet, we would be in that little boxed environment of the train. There's only so much you can do. And every time the train would stop, my mother would give us the job. Look, the train has stopped. Now it is up to you guys to push the train. And when we start pushing for like 2 minutes and suddenly starts moving, yay! Apadita bhrama. What is the apadita bhrama? That I am pushing it, therefore it is moving. Actually, it is not, it is completely independent of you. But there is a celebratory moment. I have pushed. And that which can happen independently even if you are not pushing. What are you taking a credit for? The entire field of transaction happens without pushing. How to become successful? करते हैं हम भी ये नौटंकी. Because to bring that mind which is still in that particular field, we create a relevance, excellence in success. Not just success. You don't have to just survive. You can thrive. But yeah, this coinage of words is very, very catchy, attractive. We are playing in the field. So that Rajasic mind now has an adhyatmic perspective to be in that particular field and slowly grow. But the clarity is there. It is this vyāpāra happens because of, as Adi Shankaracharya ji puts in Viveka prarabdham pushyati vapuhu. Even if you don't want to, prarabdha pushyati, it pushes you. Prarabdham pushyati, it's very powerful, you cannot stop it. Why? Wherever you go, there you are. Prarabdha continues. Then you realize that even if there is no you factor anymore, prarabdha still continues. As the fan, when you turn it off, there is that momentum effect. That momentum effect still continues, persists. So you just allow it happen, stand by, watch it happen. हर चीज में I have to meddle with it, stake a claim that I am the doer. Last time when I was in the temple, Swamiji, you came, there is activity will happen. Nobody in this world is indispensable. Activity will continue to happen. You are just the nimitta, and that in that nimitta you be the observer that things are happening. You stake a claim and then it has both the obvious minus and the oblivious minus. There is no plus in it. It appears as though plus. Neither the success nor the failure is yours. It is a happening. Let it happen. No, but we identify with that, feel good, elated, and self-worth is pumped up when it is a success. Self-worth is down the dumps when it is a failure. And then there are those dark songs. मुझे मेरे हाल में छोड़ दो. After you all leave, that is what I sing. मुझे इस हाल में छोड़ दो. हाल में. What sadness? It is because of that wrong association. You are not the vyāpāri, vyāpāra will continue to happen. You are just the observer. It takes a lot of courage and stamina to stand on that standpoint and observe. Because of the habitual error, we constantly slip and identify. Therefore, the Himalayan wisdom is applicable here also. Of course, Vedanta is also Himalayan wisdom. Nazar hati, durghatna ghati. The moment you take your attention away, we will slip. Just because we have slipped, don't give up because there is no other way. Pick up, get back to that standpoint of being that śaśī. See, we all make fun of Vishwamitra ji. That he was such a reckless fellow. He did this. So many times he fell. At least in his lifetime there were only 4 falls. Apna kya कहना? What about us? First time it was because of Vasishtha. Then he wanted to become the similar one. comparison, competition, confusion, triple C. Then he became a tapasvin. Then there was a damsel, first slip. Then there was Trishanku, third slip. Then again another damsel. Earlier it was Kama, now he had burnt his fingers there. So this time it was Krodha, again burnt his fingers. First time was, who was the first damsel? Urvashi. Second damsel? Pata nahi hai. Ramba. I know what you are, you think you can disturb me, turn into a stone. All tapo shakti gone. Four obvious faults we see, because he fell for all that which was false. He got identified in that moment. But he rebounded quickly, recognized his mistake, corrected his path, and reached to that highest. That is the moral of the story. We end up using the entire story. Vishwamitra bhi gir gaya tha. Hum kya cheez hai? Arre, Vishwamitra bhi utha tha. Tum wo cheez ho. That is the moral of the story. I fell down. I fell down really bad. I fell down again. I don't know why this happened. That is how it is. You've never had the practice of turning that particular switch on to be on the observer's deck. This whole field is nothing but an observatory. Stand back, relax, enjoy the observation without paying any attribute to that which you are observing. No side commentary. Good, bad, worse, nothing. Just observe. But we have this itch. Not only that we identify, how do we recognize that we identified? We start the commentary. Oh, this is so good. Oh, this is so bad. Oh, this is so horrifying. This is so disgusting. All the projections begin. If we just stop at this ease, there is a sense of easiness. EAC, ISNESS, both. But then we slip every time. It has to be branded. And we love branding. Anything that passes by has to be branded. My signature has to be there. My signature, the ahankar, has to brand it. What, without that branding, the happening will not happen or what? Back off. And you will see that the world of happenings doesn't require you. It continuously happens. Wherever accordingly that it is the responsibility that has to be fulfilled, you still fulfill it from that platform of being the observer. The observatory deck has not to be forgotten or given up. Therefore, the entire sadhana is to create that observatory deck within. Unshakable one. Impenetrable one. That sanctuary of peace has to be so solid that it cannot be rocked by any of these movements. Standing there, observe and let things happen. You do the best that the situation is demanding out of that experience. Step back. Role, responsibility, the result, all of it. Since I have come, many people, for whatever situation, one thing that everybody wants to chant is Nirvana Shatkam. It's a very soothing one. But Nirvana Shatkam is pointing at this. None of these happenings, none of these brandings, none of this imaging is you. To such a subtle point where I say, na guru na sishya, na vedo na yajna. Don't ever compare that all religions are same. No other religion says this. Only our Hindu Shastra says that at this point even Veda becomes Aveda, irrelevant. When the Shastra has that kind of courage to say that Shastra also is irrelevant, when you reach to that point, what are the rest of the brandings? No more becoming. This is happening. Observe it. Now, when you say it is observed, it doesn't mean that you see everything as awesome. There are some which are not awesome. Observe it as not awesome. Don't get impacted by it. I feel insulted. Any kind of change, it means we have become weak. Therefore, Vivekananda used to roar, knowledge is strength, ignorance is weakness. And all of these transitions and identifying with those transitions and dancing according to the tunes of those transitions is weakness in display. However much big muscles you have is irrelevant. dṛśyate'bhreṣu dhāvatsu dhāvanniva śaśī. When you are observing the sky, the night sky, you started watching that beautiful full moon. It was a clear sky, but then suddenly, from somewhere a little breeze, clouds started moving, gathering. Your attention shifted from the moon to the moving clouds. For a brief moment, it doesn't last too long. For a brief moment, there is a little confusion that occurs, wherein I end up assuming that the moon is moving the opposite direction. The movement is actually in the cloud. But then what do we superimpose? Āpādita lakṣana, that the moon moved. The moon will not move. It is only the clouds that are moving. To see this, there is a train example. Now, I am not talking about a train moving and we assuming that the trees are moving, the buildings are moving. That is very obvious. You have come to the platform. The train is stationary. Somebody that is with you has gotten down to get some water bottle, some snacks, and for a brief moment, your attention went into the other side, to the other side of the platform, and suddenly feel that your train has started moving. And suddenly you, in panic, turn. Where is this fellow? And then realize, this is stationary only. Then where is that apadita movement? And you see, that train is moving. But that movement is so subtle and gradual that it almost feels as though you are moving. Have you experienced this? The transference of that movement is so subtle. But luckily you have the counter reference to immediately nullify the effect and come to peace. Just a moment earlier, when that constant was not referred to, you were in pieces. The moment you change that observatory deck, where are you? Where is the point of reference? Is it to the movement or is it to the constant? The moment it shifts to the constant, the antakarana is not agitated anymore. Instantly. That is the beauty. You don't have to climb the hills, Jai Mata Di, to get to this point. You don't have to be dipping in the 24 Rameshwaram mein, the wells. 21 wells. And pour yourself through that cold water to come to this standpoint. It is just the change of the referral point. Shift from the movement to the constant. That is when it is called noble. See, in the periodic chart, there are a lot of elements. They have added so many, I have lost count. But I remember one, that in the last column, what is that called? The last column? Noble gases. What is the difference between the other elements and these noble gases? Noble elements? These are highly stable. Stable meaning constant. The rest of them have a particle more, particle less, therefore volatile. That particle more, particle less is creating that movement, therefore we are volatile. Anything that is happening, bus. Understand, all your bus is only gas. No effect. कुछ नहीं होने वाला. Am I getting across? A very serious point this is. We only assume that I am doing. Because our focus is on the movement. Shift the movement to the constant, nothing else changes. You become relaxed, quiet, composed, attentive, alert, vigilant. Now, once this knack is understood, every place that you stand becomes a tirtha, purified. The impurity is my identity with the movement. The purity is being with the constant. That being Sakshi, let other movements happen. Neither resist it nor encourage it. Let it happen. The entire world of happenings अपने बोलने पे नहीं चल रहा है. It is not moving because I am doing. It would be as foolish as me being a child trying to think that I am pushing the train. I'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.